Okay, so this is the design process overview, you guys. So what I got going on right now is identifying, in this instance I'm doing a children's book. Well, it's not really a children's book, just doing a book cover, and the medium's going to be black and white, charcoal reductive technique in this instance. Doesn't really matter because the design process is the design process regardless of the medium, etc. So what I'm here to show you guys is, first of all, a brainstorm, which is occurring over here on the far right, which you see here. And I'm identifying the problem, which is the first step in the design process. And the problem is I need to design a cover for a book, and I chose Moby Dick as the subject. So I draw Moby Dick as the subject in the middle, and then around it I proceed to go and write in a brainstorm, or in the form of a mind map, as you see here. Granted, you can do it in the computer, it's a lot more professional, but this is also absolutely okay. As with anything, if you present this well, it'll read well. Okay? So Moby Dick is the issue. I've got to come up with a book cover that deals with the story of Moby Dick. And then I'm going to go and proceed to put words around here to keep my plan in place in this area that I can refer to make sure that I covered all my bases. So Moby Dick, what's the story about? A demented, deranged old sailor that had a run-in with a sperm whale where it bit his leg off, and over the years he's built it up to be something way bigger than it really is. The whale becomes some sort of a monster specter phantom of some sort that he's got to seek his revenge on for losing his leg. So with that being said, I put Moby Dick here. I put that he made him out to be a boogeyman over time. I'm putting in situations that I think might be interesting to indicate in terms of the artwork and the iconography. I decided a rainy night might be good to contribute to the whole idea of the scary monster. Large in quotation marks, meaning that I'm going to over-exaggerate perhaps. Maybe I'll do him like a big spirit in the sky, that kind of a large indication of the whale. A whaler is the kind of boat that they used to send out with the oarsmen to go and harpoon whales. So I definitely am thinking about that as something that I might want to consider. Stormy seas, so it even makes it more of a scary situation. Being cognitive or cognizant and adding a spiritual element to it again. These are just terms that I'm putting in here. Now, it's black and white. I might want to go and write down that I want to make it a little dark. If it's dark, it's going to be such that I can be sure that I keep it dark, and perhaps I can use that for high contrast to get Moby Dick as a high contrast situation. White on a black would be good. What emotions do I want to evoke? Fear. Anxiety. As in all good horror movies, you got to have fog. Fog could be something. I'll put down here sky indication. So maybe I put Moby Dick in the sky like he's all seeing, all knowing. And that's the basic idea right there, is to come out with what you're trying to consider. I might want to really push the idea of texture. So after I do my charcoal, I might go in here with some sort of an acrylic paint and a toothbrush and do some sort of a spattering where you put the toothbrush into the paint and then you flick it with your thumb so you get dots all over the place. That could be good too. I never said you couldn't do that. I just said primarily you're going to be using charcoal. So with this mind map, which is step one, now just remember your presentation is going to consist of a cover page, the mind map with a minimum of 20 terms to make sure that you're thoroughly exploring the possibilities and the problem. And then you're going to proceed to go and scribble ideas. And you should be scribbling. This process is to capture ideas, but also to eradicate your brain of all the ideas that everybody else comes up with, like this one, where you have the whale tail and it's flicking and it's destroying the boat and people are flying, and then there's an oar in the foreground that shows you the power of that tail flap. And so that's, how many times have you seen that? It doesn't have to be Moby Dick to indicate that a whale is attacking boats. It's been done a million times. This one is showing an extreme close-up on Moby Dick. There's the mouth. Maybe I'll put this background here. Maybe I'll put a little background right here. And then I have the type quickly indicated with the squiggly lines. So this is showing me that I'm going to have a broadside treatment that says Moby Dick. Herman Melville is the author. Same thing here. Don't forget to plan where you're going to put the type, because people, especially young artists, always want to draw the artwork and then try to figure out where they're going to jam the type in after the fact. But type is every bit as important as the whale fluke, because the type that you choose could contribute or detract. If you come up with a fun and happy typeface here, it could ruin the whole goal of trying to create this kind of a fearful setting. Unless you're talking about something like Ghost Ship, where I went to the movies and it sounded like it was going to be a Love Boat episode where they had all the preview credits all done in a very 1960s era scripty font that I actually, when I walked into the theater, had to ask the guy, am I in the right place? Because it just seemed too happy and too light to be a horror movie. And then it flipped a switch and it changed. It was scary. So in that instance, it was very effective to mess with people in terms of creating a feeling to begin with the typeface being very happy, curvy, and lighthearted. Whereas Moby Dick, you might want to have it be an old sans serif or an old serif font that looks like it's made of wood with chips in it and maybe oxidation running down it. It could be so fantastic that some people might just do the typeface on a black cover and call it a day. You can make illustrative typefaces too. This idea has got the foreground, which I always push is a foreground, a midground with the boat, and then the background, so that you get a nice depth of field and it gets a meandering eye to travel through the composition in a linear fashion. Background, I have the specter of the whale being really big. You see his eyes right here. But again, this is all just a quick notation. These sketches right here are just a mind dump, just to get the idea out of your head. Okay? So once you've got these ideas roughed out, how many thumbnails does it take? I'm only asking you to show me 3, but I'm looking for you to come up with as many ideas as necessary to come up with 3. And maybe you go and you incorporate this one and the boat from this one. Maybe you do this. You have a little boat down here, and you incorporate this boat from here over here, and then you put these two together, and that's the idea you run with. So that's how this works. Now, once you've got that done, you'll do the transfer technique. And we covered that in class, but just to reiterate, I go online because I want to find a whale, a sperm whale. And this is the sperm whale Xerox that I found. And just to let you know, you grab artwork or photographs off the internet. As a student, you're okay to do that because you're not using this to sell, but you're using this to learn. So the world is your oyster at this point. If you were to take this and try to sell this, though, you could be sued. So the way to go about doing it properly is you go on the internet, you go and you look up pictures, you find out in the professional setting, if you like the picture, you contact the photographer and you ask them what their fee is to use it as a resource for photography or for your illustration. And then you can negotiate and figure it out. Last time I did that, I was looking for a very rare plane that only, I think, was available. Somebody had taken pictures in England of this plane. And so I contacted them and I asked them, what do you want for the use of this picture as a resource for an illustration? And they asked me for $100. And so you pay $100, you can use that photograph to get the artwork done, and you're completely legal and legitimate at that point. So be careful about that. Make sure you do it right if you're trying to sell these and make t-shirts. But for our purposes, you're fine. You're protected by the fair use law. So I print this thing out, I turn it over, and I tone the background with graphite. And then I proceed to lay it down and make sure that I've got the paper registered so that when I have to check to see how the tracing is coming out, I don't have it skip and move all over the place. So again, first step, print it out. Second step, line the back with graphite. Third step, lay it down on a new piece of paper and then trace out the whale. Now if you notice, I'm going and I'm tracing out the value zones. There's the darkest, the medium, and the light. Always going for dark, medium, and light. And this is just the initial point. So if you notice, this is what you end up getting in the end. And with this, his mouth isn't open as much as it is on mine. And if you notice his head, I made his head larger in the front slightly, and I also opened his mouth, and I also chose not to incorporate as much texture on the side here because, again, ultimately we're not copying the picture. This is the departure point. The actual finish is what you determine. This is just the initial. It's like if somebody told you, okay, make a sandwich, here are the ingredients. You can choose to use all the ingredients, or you can choose to make a minimal sandwich without all the ingredients. It's your call. So this is the starting point. This is what I came up with. And down here, I decided I was going to add, as if this were underwater and he was swimming, and this was an old shipwreck. Maybe it was the boat that he just wrecked. So obviously I need resource material, but this is a good idea to lay out for myself. And then I did something with the type so it didn't seem so stuffy. I tried to get it to go and fit into the negative space in a nice way. So what I'm looking for, if you're up to the task, is to get 3 thumbnail ideas that are at least to this level of finish. And if you look at the piece that I sent to you guys where it's got the eagle and the poster with the eagle finished, that's in your actual assignment as a resource. You can check that out. That's more definitive. I would go with that. But again, I just want to show you guys the technique to arrive at something. If you don't feel like you're confident enough to draw it on your own, this is how I would go. Or you can go and look at something like Disney. Do your research. Find out what they did for Monstro. Monstro and Pinocchio was a big, really abstract whale, but it was reminiscent of a sperm whale. Okay? I hope that helps you. So again, to reiterate, page 1's the cover sheet. Page 2 is the brainstorm. Right here. And again, you might do it in the computer so it's nice and neat. Step 3 is 3 samples that you found on the internet. So maybe you looked at Monstro from Pinocchio, maybe you looked at some photography, maybe you saw an old poster advertising a whale festival that you thought was really a strong piece that you wanted to utilize. Or you could look up Rockwell Kent like you did in class. And then the final thing is to have 3 thumbnails to present of that quality, at least that quality. Okay, again, ultimately you want to present ideas to somebody as if you were treating them, presenting to a 5-year-old. If you can do that, then you're good.